Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about something very important for every English learner. We will talk about how to train your mind for English. Many people try to learn English by studying grammar or memorizing words, but they forget one important thing. English is not only about words, it is also about how your mind works. If your mind is not trained for English, speaking becomes difficult. But when your mind becomes comfortable with English, everything starts to feel easier. Chapter 1. Train your mind for English. Let me explain something simple. Your mind is like a muscle. When you use a muscle every day, it becomes stronger. In the same way, when you use English every day, your mind becomes stronger in English. At first, it may feel slow and confusing. You may forget words. You may feel nervous when speaking. But this is normal. Every learner experiences this in the beginning. Let me tell you a small story. When I first started learning English, my mind was always translating. If I wanted to say something in English, I first thought in my own language, then I translated it into English. This process was very slow. Sometimes by the time I found the words, the conversation was already finished. I felt frustrated and embarrassed. One day I realized something important. I understood that my problem was not vocabulary. My problem was my thinking habit. My mind was not trained to think in English. It was always working in my native language first. That is when I decided to train my mind differently. The first step to train your mind for English is exposure. This means your mind needs to hear and see English as much as possible. When your brain hears something again and again, it starts recognizing patterns. Slowly, those patterns become natural. This is how children learn language. They listen again and again before they start speaking. So try to listen to English every day. Listen to simple English conversations, stories, or videos. Do not worry if you do not understand everything. Your mind is still learning. Even when you understand only a few words, your brain is building connections. Over time, these connections become stronger. Another important step is thinking in English. At first, this may feel difficult. Your brain will want to translate everything, but try to stop that habit slowly. Start with simple thoughts. For example, when you wake up in the morning, think in English. You can say in your mind, I am waking up. When you drink water, think, I am drinking water. These small thoughts train your brain to use English naturally. When I started doing this, it felt strange at first. My sentences were very simple. Sometimes I did not know the right word, but slowly my mind started adjusting. Instead of translating, I began thinking directly in English. This made speaking much faster and easier. Another powerful way to train your mind is repetition. When you hear a sentence, repeat it. When you learn a new phrase, say it many times. Repetition helps your brain remember things deeply. The more you repeat something, the more natural it becomes. For example, if you learn the sentence, I am learning English every day, repeat it several times. Say it while walking, while studying, or even while looking in the mirror. Soon your mind will remember it automatically. When you need to speak, the sentence will come out easily. Your environment also plays a big role in training your mind. Try to surround yourself with English. Change your phone language to English. Watch English videos. Read simple English stories. The more English you see in your daily life, the more comfortable your mind becomes. I remember when I changed the language on my phone to English. At first, I did not understand some words, but after a few days, those words became familiar. Without realizing it, I had learned new vocabulary just by using my phone. Small changes like this can make a big difference. Another important thing is to remove fear from your mind. Fear blocks learning. When you are afraid of making mistakes, your brain becomes tense. A tense mind cannot learn well. So relax and allow yourself to make mistakes. Mistakes are not your enemy. They are your teachers. When I was learning English, I made many mistakes. Sometimes I said the wrong word. Sometimes my sentences were not correct. But every mistake helped me improve slowly. My mind became more confident. Confidence is a very powerful tool in language learning. You should also practice speaking out loud even when you are alone. Many learners only read silently, but speaking activates your brain in a different way. When you speak, your mind must quickly organize words and sentences. This practice trains your brain to respond faster. Sometimes I spoke to myself while walking or sitting in my room. I described what I was doing. For example, I said, "Now I am studying English. Now I am opening my book. Now I am reading a story." These simple exercises helped my brain become comfortable with English thinking. Another helpful tip is visualization. When you learn a new word, imagine it in your mind. For example, if you learn the word mountain, imagine a tall mountain. When your brain connects words with images, it remembers them more easily. Training your mind for English is not something that happens in one day. It is a gradual process. Every small practice helps your brain adapt. Day by day, your mind becomes more familiar with English. One day, you will notice something surprising. You will start understanding English without translating. You will start speaking without thinking too much. That moment shows that your mind is finally trained for English. So remember this important lesson. Learning English is not only about studying books. It is about training your mind. Feed your mind with English every day. Think in English. Speak in English. Surround yourself with English. Slowly but surely, your brain will change. And once your mind becomes comfortable with English, speaking will feel natural and easy. This is the beginning of your journey to train your mind for English. Chapter 2. Changing the way your brain learns English. Many learners think learning English means studying grammar rules and memorizing long lists of words. They spend many hours reading books. But when it is time to speak, they cannot say anything. Their mind becomes empty. This happens because the brain was trained to study English, not to use English. There is a big difference between studying a language and using a language. Studying means learning rules. Using means communicating. If your brain only learns rules, it becomes slow. But if your brain practices communication, it becomes faster and more natural. Let me share a small experience. When I was learning English, I spent many hours studying grammar. I knew many grammar rules. I could explain them very well. But when someone spoke to me in English, I still felt nervous. I needed time to think about the grammar before speaking. By the time I finished thinking, the conversation had already moved on. One day, I realized something important. Native speakers do not think about grammar when they speak. They simply speak. Their brain learned the patterns of the language through practice, not through memorizing rules. So I decided to change my learning method. Instead of focusing only on grammar, I started focusing on sentences. Sentences are very powerful for the brain. When you learn a sentence, you are learning many things at the same time. You learn vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and structure together. For example, instead of memorizing the word hungry, you can learn a full sentence like I am very hungry right now. When you practice this sentence many times, your brain learns how the word works in real life. Later, when you want to speak, your brain can easily change the sentence. You can say, I am very tired right now, or I am very busy right now. This is how the brain builds language patterns. Another powerful way to train your brain is through listening. Listening is one of the most natural ways to learn a language. Before children speak, they listen for a long time. Their brain absorbs the sounds, the rhythm, and the patterns of the language. You can train your brain the same way. Listen to English every day. Listen to simple conversations, stories, or slow English videos. Do not worry if you do not understand everything. Your brain is still learning from the sounds. At the beginning, your brain may feel confused. Words may sound too fast, but do not stop. The brain needs time to adjust. Slowly, the sounds will start becoming clearer. You will begin to recognize words and phrases. I remember when I first started listening to English stories. At first, I understood almost nothing, but I kept listening every day. After some weeks, something amazing happened. My brain started recognizing many words automatically. I did not need to translate anymore. This showed me that the brain learns through repetition and exposure. Another important habit is speaking without fear. Not many learners stop themselves from speaking because they are afraid of making mistakes. But this fear stops the brain from learning. The brain needs practice to become comfortable. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. At first, you may fall. You may lose balance. But if you keep practicing, your body learns how to balance. Speaking English works the same way. The more you speak, the more your brain learns how to organize words quickly. So speak English every day. Even if your sentences are simple, you can speak with friends, teachers, or even yourself. Speaking to yourself is actually a very powerful exercise. It allows your brain to practice without pressure. For example, you can describe your daily activities in English. When you wake up, say, I am waking up now. When you eat breakfast, say, I am eating my breakfast. These small exercises train your brain to think and speak in English naturally. Another useful method is shadowing. Shadowing means repeating what you hear immediately. When you listen to an English speaker, try to repeat the sentence right after them. This helps your brain learn pronunciation and rhythm. At first, this may feel difficult because the speaker may talk fast, but start with slow English videos. Listen carefully and repeat the sentences. This practice helps your brain connect. Listening and speaking together. Your brain also loves emotions and stories. Stories are very powerful tools for learning. When you listen to a story, your brain becomes interested. It tries to imagine the characters and events. This makes learning easier and more enjoyable. That is why reading or listening to simple stories in English can help your brain learn faster than memorizing word lists. Stories give meaning to the words, and the brain remembers meaningful information better. I remember reading a simple story about a boy and his dog. The story was very short, but it helped me learn many useful words. Because the story was interesting, my brain remembered those words easily. Another helpful habit is consistency. Your brain learns best with regular practice. Studying for a short time every day is better than studying for many hours only once a week. Daily practice keeps the language fresh in your mind. Even if you practice English for only 20 or 30 minutes each day, it will help your brain grow stronger. Think of it like watering a plant. A little water every day helps the plant grow healthy and strong. Over time, your brain will become faster. You will start understanding English more easily. Words will come to your mind more quickly when you speak. This is a sign that your brain is adapting to the language. Training your mind for English is not about being perfect. It is about creating the right habits for your brain. Listening, speaking, repeating, and thinking in English every day will slowly change how your brain works. And once your brain changes, English will stop feeling like a foreign language. It will start feeling natural. We are only at the beginning of this journey. Chapter 3. Building Strong English Thinking Habits. Many learners say something like this: I know many English words, but I cannot speak. If you feel this way, do not worry. This problem happens to many people. The reason is simple. Your brain knows English words, but it is not used to thinking in English. Your mind still works mainly in your own language. When this happens, your brain must translate every sentence before speaking. First you think in your language, then you try to change it into English. This process takes time and it makes speaking slow and difficult. Sometimes the words disappear from your mind and you feel nervous. But the good news is that your brain can learn new habits. Just like any other habit, thinking in English can become natural if you practice it regularly. Let me tell you about my own experience. When I first tried to think in English, it felt very strange. My mind wanted to go back to my native language. I could only make very short sentences in my head. Sometimes I did not know the correct words, but I continued practicing every day. At the beginning, my thoughts were very simple. I said things in my mind like I am walking, I am drinking tea, I am opening the door. These were small sentences, but they were very powerful. They helped my brain become comfortable with English thinking. After some time, my thoughts became longer. I started saying things like, today, I will study English for 1 hour, or I need to finish my work before dinner. Slowly, my mind began to use English more naturally. You can train your brain the same way. The first step is to start thinking in English during simple moments of your day. When you wake up in the morning, describe your actions in English. When you walk outside, talk about what you see around you. For example, you can think, the weather is nice today, or there are many people on the street. These small exercises are very powerful because they train your brain to use English without translation. Another helpful habit is asking yourself questions in English. Your brain becomes more active when it answers questions. For example, you can ask yourself simple questions like, what am I doing now? What will I do today? Or, what did I learn today? Then answer the questions in English. Your answers do not need to be perfect. The goal is simply to practice thinking. For example, you can say, today I will study English and watch a video. Or, today I learned some new words. This exercise helps your brain practice forming sentences naturally. Another useful method is describing things around you. Look at objects near you and try to describe them in English. For example, you can look at a chair and say in your mind, this chair is brown. It is very comfortable. If you see a tree outside, you can think, the tree is very tall and green. This simple activity trains your brain to connect English words with real objects. When your brain makes these connections, it remembers the words better. It is also helpful to imagine conversations in your mind. Imagine that you are talking with a friend, a teacher, or even a stranger. Think about what you would say in English. Then imagine the other person answering you. For example, you can imagine a conversation at a store. In your mind, you can say, hello, I would like to buy this. Then imagine the shopkeeper saying, sure, that will be $5. These imaginary conversations train your brain for real-life situations. I used to practice this exercise often. When I was alone, I imagined talking to people in English. Sometimes I imagined asking for directions. Sometimes I imagined introducing myself to someone new. These small practices helped me become more confident when real conversations happened. Another good habit is reading simple English texts every day. Reading helps your brain see how sentences are formed. It also helps you learn new vocabulary and sentence patterns. When you read regularly, your brain becomes familiar with English structure. You can start with simple stories or short articles. As you read, try to understand the meaning instead of translating every word. If you see a new word, try to guess its meaning from the sentence. This helps your brain think directly in English. Writing is also a powerful tool for training your mind. When you write in English, your brain practices organizing thoughts and building sentences. You do not need to write long essays. Even a few sentences each day can help. For example, you can write about your day. You can write something like, today I studied English for 30 minutes. I learned some new words. I also watched an English video. Writing these simple sentences helps your brain remember patterns. Another important habit is patience. Your brain needs time to develop new thinking habits. In the beginning, thinking in English may feel slow and difficult. But if you practice every day, your brain will slowly adapt. One day, you will notice something surprising. You will start thinking in English automatically. You will understand sentences without translating them. Speaking will feel faster and more natural. This moment shows that your mind is changing. Remember that training your mind for English is like training your body for exercise. At first, the muscles feel weak, but with daily practice, they become stronger. In the same way, your English thinking ability will grow stronger every day if you keep practicing. So, keep thinking in English. Keep practicing small sentences. Over time, your mind will become comfortable with the language, and speaking English will become much easier. Our journey is still continuing. Chapter 4: Creating an English Environment for Your Mind. Many learners believe they cannot improve their English because they do not live in an English-speaking country. They think they need to travel to another country to learn English. Well, the truth is different. Today, you can create your own English environment anywhere in the world. Your mind learns from what it sees and hears every day. If your mind is surrounded by your native language all the time, it will naturally think in that language. But if you start surrounding your mind with English, your brain will slowly begin to adapt. Let me tell you a simple story. When I was learning English, I did not live in an English-speaking country. Nobody around me spoke English every day. At first, I felt that learning English would be very difficult for me. But then I realized something important. I could create my own English environment. The first thing I did was change the language on my phone to English. At first, it felt confusing. Some words were difficult to understand. But after a few days, those words became familiar. Every time I used my phone, I was learning something new without even trying. This small change helped my brain see English every day. Another thing I did was start watching English videos regularly. At first, I watched very simple videos with slow and clear speech. I did not try to understand every single word. Instead, I focused on understanding the general idea. When you watch English videos often, your brain becomes familiar with the sounds of the language. The rhythm, pronunciation, and sentence patterns start feeling natural. Sometimes I watch the same video more than once. The first time I understood only a little. The second time I understood more. By the third time, many sentences became clear. Repeating videos helped my brain remember the language better. Listening to English music can also help create an English environment. Songs are fun, and they help your brain remember words and phrases easily. When you listen to songs many times, your mind begins to remember the lyrics naturally. I remember listening to some English songs again and again. At first, I only enjoyed the music. Later, I started understanding the words. Soon I was singing along with the song. This helped my pronunciation and confidence. Reading English regularly is another powerful way to create an English environment. You do not need to read difficult books. Start with simple stories, short articles, or even children's books. The goal is to let your mind see English sentences often. When you read every day, your brain learns how sentences are built. It begins to recognize patterns automatically. This makes speaking and writing much easier later. You can also place English around your home. For example, you can write the names of objects on small pieces of paper. Stick the word door on your door. Write table on your table. Write mirror on your mirror. Every time you see these words, your brain will remember them. This simple trick turns your home into a learning environment. Another powerful idea is using English during daily activities. For example, when you cook, you can think in English. You can say, "Now I am cutting vegetables." When you walk outside, you can describe what you see. You might think the sky is blue today, or there are many cars on the road. These small activities help your brain connect English with real life. You can also try listening to English podcasts or radio. Even if you do not understand everything, listening trains your brain to recognize the sounds of English. Over time, your listening ability will improve. At first, your brain may feel tired when listening to English for a long time. This is normal. Learning a new language requires mental energy, but with practice, your brain will become stronger. Talking with other learners can also help build an English environment. If you have friends who are learning English, practice speaking with them. You can talk about simple topics like your daily activities, hobbies, or plans for the day. If you cannot find someone nearby, you can still practice speaking by talking to yourself. Speaking alone may feel strange at first, but it is actually a powerful method. It allows your brain to practice forming sentences freely. Another helpful method is recording your voice while speaking English. After recording, listen to yourself carefully. This helps you notice your pronunciation and speaking habits. You can hear your mistakes and improve them. When I first listened to my own recordings, it felt unusual, but it helped me understand how I sounded when speaking English. Slowly, my pronunciation became clearer. The key idea here is simple. Your mind becomes comfortable with what it experiences every day. If you give your brain English input every day, it will slowly accept English as a normal part of life. You do not need to study English all day. Even small daily exposure can make a big difference. Listening, reading, watching, and thinking in English regularly will train your brain naturally. One day you will notice that English does not feel foreign anymore. It will feel familiar, just like something you see every day. So remember this important lesson. Do not wait for the perfect environment. Create your own English environment wherever you are. When your mind lives in an English environment, learning becomes easier and more natural.